Hello, and thank you for listening. My name is Luke Mardigian, and you are listening to Be Insured, where we talk about business, leadership, and insurance. That way, on your worst day, when you need it the most, you will be insured. Insurance agents, I'm talking to you today. So many agents that I talk to feel alone, burned out, not wanting to get in the office on a Monday morning, really not sure of what the next steps are. They have no clue what to do next, and they're alone, so there's no one to help them. And the worst part of it is so many of agents live on a borrowed identity from the companies they work with or the agency owner who previously owned it. And they base what they do every single day on what the contract tells them to do or what somebody else told them to do. And they don't do it because that's who they are. So if you're an insurance agent and you're listening today, this episode is for you, specifically captive insurance agents, but this certainly apply to small, closely held independent agencies also. And during today's episode, we're going to talk about how to grow and scale your insurance agency. And I'm excited to be joined by my great guest,
Richard Schall,
and my awesome co-host,
Eric Gestring, the Mardigian Agency.
Richard, can you tell listeners more about your work and what you do to help business owners, CEOs scale their business?
Yeah, absolutely. So we help specifically six-figure service-based business owners to install the system, strategy, and self-managing team they need to scale past seven figures and regain their time freedom in the process. And we do that through essentially helping them simplify their sales strategy, get really clear about who they're selling to, what offers they make, and make really everything about the business simpler and more profitable. From there, then we work to set up systems that replace the business owner as the center spoke of the wheel and make sure that they can actually see their vision accomplished without them doing it all the time, which allows them to then empower a self-managing team of A players. And we need to find those people, attract them, hire them, interview them, and then ultimately empower them. And that's what we help business owners do who haven't really been able to cross that mark or have experience doing that, but they know that's what they need to get to the next level.
That's great.
And that's my favorite thing about Unleashed is that those are really the key pieces when you talk to business owners. You go out and you try to find all the gurus and you figure out, if I can fix the marketing, then everything's fixed. And it's like, no, if you don't have a good sales system, the marketing doesn't matter. And if you don't have a good team, it doesn't matter how much you sell. And if you don't have a system in place, which systems is a word that's thrown around way too much. Well, we have a system, which their system is literally like taking a piece of paper and handing it to somebody. It's like, that's not a system. Like if you're dead, no one's there to hand the paper to them.
Yeah.
So it's not a system.
Right.
And those key things are hit in your Unleashed Academy. So thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we can shed some light to the insurance agents out there of how to get this done.
That's awesome.
Honored to be here. And most people wouldn't know this, but I actually worked in the insurance industry and wealth management industry for almost 4 years. And so very familiar with both the struggles and trials of that and also the victories and the amazing industry that it is when it's done right.
Well, it's a huge leverage for people that are interested in scaling.
Yeah, it's funny. I was messaging with Josh from Traffic and Funnels, and he's like, hey, how do you know Richard? And I was like, oh, we're working together. He's like, I didn't know he knew insurance. And I'm like, yeah, dude, he's in the industry for like 7 years. He's like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Funny.
Yeah,
so Richard, I want you to explain to the listeners or kind of put it out there when's a good time for business owners to look into scaling? When would be a good time for that?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to define scaling, because a lot of times that word gets thrown around a lot.
Right.
And for some people, it literally just means more marketing. Yeah. Scaling really means, when are you ready to make the business bigger than you are? That's how I define scaling, right? When are you ready to let the business transcend, a personal brand or something where you're the primary driver of all business activity, and really let it become something bigger than you are? Now, scaling applies obviously beyond that, but at every level, you've got to choose to give up personal ownership of the business in order to empower other people so the business can grow bigger than you are.
On every level.
And you can scale too fast, right? That's a real threat.
Absolutely. So a great example of this, when I say, when you ask the question, how do you know how to scale? Well, when are you ready to let the business, grow beyond you? And the real answer there is, there are some stages of the entrepreneurial journey where it's not wise to actually let it grow beyond you. One great example of this, and I think, Luke, you're going to talk about this a bit, is if you have not yet achieved what's called product market fit, meaning you don't know exactly who the market is that wants your product, and you haven't consistently validated and proven that they'll buy it, right? And buy it consistently.
That's so good.
You're in no business to try scaling if you haven't achieved product market fit, right? Another big thing that we work with a lot of businesses on, so I don't think you have to have this perfectly dialed in, but the kind of next stage is what's called message to market match. So that means not only do you have a good product your market wants, but do you understand how to persuasively communicate it in a way that other people will want to get on board with, buy from you, partner with you, sell for you, so to speak, right? If you don't know how to communicate, even if what you do works, if you do it one-to-one, if you don't know how to communicate it in a way that scales, right, to your market, man, scaling is going to be really tough. So those are two key things we look at, and Silicon Valley and accelerators have cracked that code for a long time. But most small businesses have never really examined that. And then when they try to scale, they're not profitable. Their marketing spend is wasted. Their team doesn't really know what the heck's going on,
or the owner gets exhausted.
Right. And so for us, a lot of times people come to us and they are desperately wanting to scale, but those two pieces aren't really dialed in, and that's where we have to start. So the first thing I would say is if you're ready to scale and you don't have those pieces in place, it's time to get some people around you who can help you get those dialed in, because that's going to be critical before you start going out and hiring people and not knowing how to empower them, before you start even trying to build all these sophisticated systems, SOPs, software platforms. I have so many business owners I've talked to who want to invest all this time building these sophisticated SOPs, and for lack of a better term, they don't know what the crap they're doing.
Right.
And so these systems are just not aligned around a central core, which is clarity. Right. And so I think that's really key, is I think in order to know that you're ready to scale, you have to have a lot of clarity. You got to get clear. And I think that's the starting point and the determining factor of whether you're truly ready to scale.
Yeah. And really that starts with the owner, right? Clarity. So if you're an insurance agency owner and you don't even know what your superpowers are, you have no idea why people like to buy from you. I hear it all the time from agents. They're successful. They're one agent. We talk about this all the time, Erica. They're a one agent person and they're just crushing it. And you talk to them and it's literally all them.
Yeah.
Like they're on vacation. Like I asked one agent, I'm like, dude, how much time did you take off at, because we just had a baby a month and a half ago. How much time did you take off after the baby was born? He's like, I didn't take a day off. I just kept working.
Wow.
And I said, I really respect the fact that you were willing to do that because you care about your clients. I think your heart's in the right place, but I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to do that. Like I'm done. Like I'm going to at least take a week where I'm not doing anything. And
you can't even enjoy a vacation like you were just saying because they're working the whole time.
Yes. And it's because they don't understand who they are. So, when you talk about clarity of product to market, that really your market, your perfect patron is really determined by the owner.
Yeah.
And the things that they value. Am I right?
That's right. And I think, man, one of the things you're harping on that we've discussed before is
identity,
positioning, which ties into identity and ties into kind of your business identity, right? But in our model, we talk about there's 5 Ps you got to have dialed in your positioning. You got to know who your perfect patron is, right? How are they in detail, right? You got to know what is their painful problem. What's the painful problem that they're ultimately looking to have solved and are willing to pay for? And is your product really addressing that problem, or is it just addressing a subset of problems? Because highly differentiated products that sell effortlessly know how to target the exact painful problem their customers are looking to solve and nothing more. It's way more profitable if you just solve the thing that people actually want solved,
and then
right?
That's not selling somebody on it,
right? It's like going to the doctor. Doctors don't have to sell at all, right? They're like, oh my God, my knee hurts. Will you please give me a solution to this painful problem? Right? It's the easiest sales process you've ever done. And then you have to know what's their promised land. So ultimately, what's the outcome that they want you to help them achieve by coming to you for your product or service? From there, it's as simple as defining a really powerful, proven process that directly aligns with your superpower. So knowing what your superpower is and then designing a proven process that solves your customer's painful problem, helps them get to their promised land, and leverages your superpower to get them there. Those 5 Ps, when they come into synchronicity, make for an incredibly powerful and scalable sales strategy.
I think it'd be helpful for listeners. Let's roll through that in the context of the insurance agency. So for us, our perfect patron is a young family in their 20s or 30s with children, obviously, 6-figure earners who have stuff that they care for.
Yep.
Right. And who value patriotism, because that's, literally like half of our agency is some type of service aspect, values patriotism and traditional family values. Right. If you don't have those pieces, we can't sell a product. We can sell a product to you, but it's not going to be a good match. Like,
it's going to get lost in what you brought up earlier, like the sub text of what they really need.
Yep.
Yeah, because they'll go like, well, I don't have all those values, but you're $1,000 cheaper a year, so I'll go with you. And then what happens is a year later, they're complaining about something that is not important, and you're going, why are they complaining about this? It doesn't make any sense. Like
The real thing is that all they care about is the premium.
yes, and they're kind of like a red herring. They're like, oh yeah, I value all those things, but they don't really value them, right? And so I think that's what happens to a lot of insurance agencies is you go through that, like, am I going to make it phase, right? And you just sell to everybody, and you don't really focus on any specific, end consumer. And you end up with a whole bunch of clients who don't believe what you believe, don't have the same value system, don't have the problem that you're able to fix. And you end up with a lot of conflict, and you have low retention rates and
time wasted.
And in insurance, our residual income is that's everything, right?
Right.
So if you're not going to have people stick around long term, you're not building a business. You're actually just literally running on a treadmill constantly.
You just painted a perfect picture of what it's like to try to scale a not highly differentiated offering.
Yes.
Right? And not being clear about, like, again, that center set, that core of who you are, what you stand for, who you're after, and what it is you do, what breakthrough you bring. When you're not clear on those things, you even at some level might even be able to scale top line revenue, but it's going to be incredibly hard to support on the bottom end, which is going to bleed away your profitability and ultimately your passion for you and your team. You're not going to be passionate about it.
Your team's going to be toast, right? Because every time we get a cancellation, it's like a punch to the gut for our team because we actually really care about our clients,
the passion.
Right? Like that's a value of ours. One of the things we value is relationships. That's one of our core values. And so if we're not building a relationship with that person to the point where that's literally like getting broken up with, right?
Yeah, you should feel it.
Like we feel it like here, like deep, like, oh, I can't believe they left, that they were such good clients. I can't believe it. Well, the reality is we just never truly differentiated ourselves enough and showed our value of our agency. Now, so the second part of that, so we got, the perfect patron, right? Who are you going to sell to? But what about the end product? In insurance, you can't really differentiate your product. So, it's not so can you talk to a little bit? It's not about the product, it's about the problem.
It is about the problem. And what I would say is in industries where the products are like pre-created, right? Like insurance, for example, I would say it's written in the name because what you really do is not the product. It's financial services, right? It's a service. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Simon Sinek said that.
Yes.
So anything you say apparently by Simon Sinek nowadays is validated and true.
Yeah.
But it is true. I mean, you think about it, like people buy why people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yep.
And it's what you said earlier. When you've got the perfect patron defined, right? The why of why somebody's going to buy life insurance from you is going to align with their value system, which is family values. They want to care for and protect and steward well. They're patriotic, so they care about, some of these values. All of those come together into a differentiated offering. So you can take the same product and craft it into a very different offer that targets a very different painful problem and creates a very different outcome in the mind of a consumer.
Yep.
Because one, like to give an example of this, a differentiated offering for you guys is going to look like the promised land. The outcome you give to someone is not they lowered their insurance rates. Right? The outcome is they can put their head on their pillow at night and know that they did everything in their power to protect their family and pass on a legacy. I mean, that is a very different offer, even if the product that sits at the center is the same.
The peace of mind.
And it's a very different patron. It's a very different customer that values that. Because if it's somebody who doesn't take, they roll up and their front bumper's like hanging off and it didn't just happen last week. It's been that way for like a year. Like you don't value your stuff. So you don't, it's clear that you don't really care about legacy. You probably want a legacy. Like that's something that you would like, but it's not something you prioritize or value with your day-to-day decisions.
And
right?
it's easy to portray that in today's society with Facebook and stuff. It's like a highlight reel. Everybody thinks that everybody's living this perfect life and a lot of people fake it. And we even get, bamboozled by clients sometimes thinking that they fit into our perfect client mold, but they really don't.
Yep. And, what we found is at the end of the day, why we're in business is the first thing we need to bring to the table because their response to what you bring to the table. And, I simply say, hey, look, I spent 5 years doing fraud investigation. I got tired of seeing that 95% of the issues were caused by agents who didn't do their job right. And I'm sitting down with a client like you and saying, hey, why did you file a claim for this? You don't have coverage for this. And they go, well, my agent told me I had coverage. And I got sick of chasing those guys. And so I fixed the problem. Is that something that you value? Do you care about having the right coverage at time of loss? Yeah, that's something I value. Well, great. Then we can work together. No, I just want to get a lower price. Probably not a good fit.
Yeah.
We're Progressive, Guycor, great. Hey, look, this is supposed to be a 1 episode thing. We're rolling with the part 2. Tune in next week for part 2 of how to scale your insurance agency with the business wrap, Be Insured Radio with Richard and Eric and Luke. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening.